You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 92. Zhao Zilong kills 5 Wei officials. Kong Ming takes 3 cities by cunning. Kong Ming and the army stop first at Mianyang, and here various plans are mooted, not least by Wei Yan. But Kong Ming rejects them all, which especially annoys and upsets Wei Yan. Xiahou Mao has gathered his forces at Chang'an, where he is joined by troops from the Chong tribes led by their chieftain Honda and his 4 sons. He is an enormous fellow wielding a huge battle axe. When the 2 armies meet, the first challenge is thrown down by Honda and his 4 sons. Enraged, Zhao Zilong charges into battle, and in the space of a few minutes kills the eldest son. This brings the 3 other brothers into battle with Zhao Zilong. He fights them alone, killing another of the sons, wounding one, who is rescued by his own men, and capturing the last son, Han Yao. At the sight of such slaughter, Honda flees, and his troops with him, though they sustain huge losses at the hands of Zhao Zilong and his men. It is a great victory for Shu. As a poet has said, "In my mind's eye I see Zhao Zilong from Changshan, triumphant and vital at the age of 70. Alone he fought 4 generals and took them down. Comparable to his feat at Dangyang when he saved his lord's heir." Later, when Deng Ji congratulates Zhao Zilong on being 70, and yet still as courageous as ever, the latter answers somewhat pointedly, "As your excellency didn't want to use me because of my age, I had to show what I am still capable of." Honda limps back to Xiahou Mao to report the disaster, and Xiahou Mao decides to take the field himself. When the very next day the 2 armies clash again, Honda rides out to avenge his fallen sons and, wielding his mighty axe, he heads straight for Zhao Zilong. After but a few bouts, Honda lies dead on the ground, while Zhao Zilong, spotting Xiahou Mao, races straight towards him. Xiahou Mao turns tail and flees, and the day is once again won by the troops of Shu. The Wei commanders meet that night to discuss what to do next, and it is agreed to try to trap Zhao Zilong in an ambush the very next day. When Deng Ji sees the army of Wei coming so soon after their previous disasters, he warns Zhao Zilong that this probably means some sort of trick is planned. But Zhao dismisses these worries, saying of Xiahou Mao, "This child still has the smell of mother's milk on his breath. I'll finish him off today." So saying, Zhao Zilong charges into battle, and when he spots Xiahou Mao he goes straight for him, followed by Deng Ji. They are, of course, swiftly drawn into an ambush. Realizing what is happening, Deng Ji manages to pull back his own men and force his way out. But Zhao Zilong is trapped. Surrounded by the Wei men, Zilong fights against overwhelming odds and somehow manages to keep them at bay. Retreating but also determined to get to use the advantage of a small hill, he fights his way up the slope, hoping also to gain a better view of the scale of the threat. But he cannot reach the top because of a barrage of stones and logs. When night falls, the Wei troops set fire to the hillside and close in for the kill. Fearlessly Zilong fights on. Down upon him rain thousands of arrows and crossbow bolts. There is no way of escape for him and his men, so he resigns himself to dying on that hill. Then, without warning, cries go up to the northeast, and the Wei soldiers start to scatter in terror. Riding to Zilong's rescue comes Zhang Bao, already bloodstained from the battle he has fought to get this far. Zilong and Zhang Bao drive through the Wei soldiers to the northwest, and then see the disorientated troops suddenly abandon their arms and flee at the sight of yet another force coming to Zilong's rescue. This time it is Guanzhong. The 2 rescuers report to Zilong that they have been detailed to help Zilong, and that this is why they're here. Zilong's response is not to say thank you but instead, "Let's go for Xiahou Mao now and finish this off once and for all." And so they do, and that very night the Wei army is finally defeated. Xiahou Mao escapes to Nan'an, but is closely followed by Zhang Bao and Guanzhong, who then besiege the city. For 10 days they and Zhao Zilong and Deng Ji try to capture the city, but to no avail. So Kong Ming comes to see what can be done. Seeing the situation and appreciating that capturing an imperial son-in-law would be a great psychological victory for Shu over Wei, Kong Ming comes up with a plot. The two major cities in the same area as Nan'an are Tianshui and Anding. Kong Ming's plan is to fool each of the governors into sending help to the beleaguered city of Nan'an, and then, when the troops have left, to seize the two cities. Thus the governor of Anding receives a sudden visit from a messenger from Nan'an by the name of Pei Su claiming to bring a letter, very wet, soiled and not easily read, from Xiahou Mao at Nan'an asking for help. The next day another surprise visitor turns up, saying that the governor of Tianshui has already sent his men to help Nan'an and Xiahou Mao. Not long after, the governor of Anding, Cui Liang, sets off for Nan'an, spurred on because he sees flames in the distance. Kong Ming's men have piled up brushwood around the city and lit it to make it look like a city about to be sacked. But he still has about 20 miles to go when he is ambushed by Zhang Bao and Guanzhong fleeing. He heads back to the supposed safety of Anding, only to discover that Wei Yan has captured the city. In fear for his life, Cui Liang turns to retreat to Tianshui, but he is stopped by another troop of soldiers who have Kong Ming in their midst in his customary Daoist clothes and seated in his carriage. Despite trying yet again to flee, he is captured and brought before Kong Ming. At their meeting Cui Liang is treated very well, and Kong Ming proposes a joint plot. He will send Cui Liang to Nan'an to talk with his friend the governor Yang Ling, and persuade him to seize Xiahou Mao. Cui Liang does as requested, almost. He enters the city under a truce, and goes straight to see his friend the governor Yang Ling. But the governor suggests that, instead of Kong Ming's plot, they spring their own. It is agreed that Cui Liang will claim that the governor Yang Ling is willing to surrender the city, and thus lure the Shu troops inside, where they can be cut down. Cui Liang therefore returns to Kong Ming and claims that Yang Ling will surrender the city, and then the Shu troops can capture Xiahou Mao, as he has insufficient men to do this himself. To this Kong Ming replies that he will use the 100 Wei soldiers, who have already surrendered, and add to them Shu officers disguised as Anding men in order to get inside and seize Xiahou. He also sends Zhang Bao and Guanxing in as well. This rather throws Cui Liang, but he realizes he has no option but to agree. We can kill them all anyway once they're inside, he thinks, and so agrees. That night, Zhang Bao and Guanxing, armed with secret missions given to them by Kong Ming, arrive at the gate of Nan'an along with the troops who have surrendered. Who are you? Demands Yang Ling, and Cui Liang replies, we come from Anding to help you. But he also shoots an arrow over the city wall to forewarn Yang Ling about Guanxing, and Zhang Bao coming in as well. Xiahou Mao is informed of all this, and they agree to kill the two Shu commanders as soon as they enter the city gate. The gates are flung open, and the troops enter. Yang Ling comes to greet them, but before he can utter a word, Guanxing draws his mighty sword and kills him instantly, while Zhang Bao strikes down the panic-stricken Cui Liang. Immediately Guanxing sends up a fire signal for the Shu army to attack, and within moments they are swarming in through the gate. In total terror, Xiahou Mao flees to the south gate, only to be confronted by more Shu troops under the command of Wang Ping. Here he is captured. Now Kong Ming enters the city, and his men behave so well this reassures the people. Kong Ming goes out of his way to reinforce this message that all will be well. He had of course guessed that Cui Liang never meant to cooperate, and so had plotted, and set his own trap instead. But while Nan'an and Anding have now fallen to Kong Ming, nothing has been heard from Tianshui. So Wei Yan is sent to take that city. The governor of Tianshui is Ma Zun. On hearing of the siege of Nan'an, he had held a council. Then Pei Su had arrived with his letter asking for help for Nan'an. He had been followed the next day by a messenger saying that Anding had moved to the rescue of Nan'an, so when would the Tianshui men move likewise? Ma Zun had been ready to go to the rescue when one of his officers, Jiang Wei, told him it was a plot of Kong Ming's. Jiang Wei is a deeply respected scholar, and filial son held in high regard. He pointed out, if Nan'an is besieged, how come two messengers have been able to escape? And who's this Pei Su anyway? Does anyone know him? This is a trick of the Shu, and, if we leave, our city will be captured. I've an alternative plan to both capture Kong Ming and relieve Nan'an. Truthfully. No matter how skillfully you plot and scheme, Plans can die because of one whom no one foresaw. So what was Jiang Wei's plan? Let's find out.